1 month to the Anambra gubernatorial election, already are the players and the umpire. Also on political updates today, Nigeria's 61 years of nationhood, the political journey, lessons and milestones. Let's set sail. I am Fisayo Ogunfui. Welcome. Nigeria has made a strong case for all parties in dispute over the last parliamentary elections in Ethiopia to bury the hatchet, come together, and chart a new course for unity, progress, and the general well-being of the country and her citizens. President Muhammadu Buhari made this submission in a goodwill message to the government and people of Ethiopia at the inauguration of the Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed for the second term in office.
The massive turnout of Ethiopians at the iconic Meskel Square, Addis Ababa, for the inauguration ceremony clearly shows the level of popularity, acceptability, and respectability of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed in Ethiopia, regarded as the mother of African independence. In the last parliamentary elections, for instance, that guaranteed the renewal of his mandate for a second 5-year term, his Prosperity Party recorded a landslide victory, winning 410 out of the 436 federal parliamentary seats. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed is, however, beginning his new term in office at a time the nearly 1-year deadly conflict in the Tigray region is worsening humanitarian conditions in the area, weakening the economy of Ethiopia and affecting his image internationally. In a goodwill message, President Muhammadu Buhari expressed the conviction that the outcome of the elections not only reflects the people's desire for transformation, but also affirms their confidence in the Prime Minister's leadership, courage, and credentials.
We are all aware of the many challenges facing the people of Ethiopia, and we encourage all parties to come together in the interest of the unity, progress, and well-being of Ethiopia. Your Excellency, you therefore have a great opportunity to continue to work for the peace and stability of Ethiopia.
While wishing the Prime Minister a very successful tenure in office, President Muhammadu Buhari looks forward to a more fruitful and robust engagement between Nigeria and Ethiopia.
Nigeria, like many other countries, is counting on your leadership by expanding investment opportunities, deepening relations, and building trust at home and abroad. I assure you that Nigeria will continue to support the unity and territorial integrity of Ethiopia.
Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, who was earlier sworn in the House of the People's Representatives, pledged to execute his mandate with faith to the Constitution of Ethiopia. The challenges ahead, he emphasized, might be daunting but not insurmountable. Several heads of state and government attended the colorful and remarkable event in solidarity.
Back home, the 36 state governments of the Federation seek an order of the Supreme Court compelling the federal government to take up funding of capital projects for the state high courts, Sharia Court of Appeal and Customary Court of Appeal. Counsel to the state governments sought the order at the hearing of the suit filed by them at the Supreme Court.
The 36 state governments are challenging the Executive Order number 10 on financial autonomy of the judiciary signed by the president. The state governments also sought another order of the Supreme Court to compel the federal government to pay them 66 billion naira, being amount they have so far expended on capital projects for the 3 courts in their states. Plaintiff's counsel Augustine Alege SAN, who led 8 other senior advocates, informed the panel of 7 justices of the court, led by Justice Mohammed Musa Datibe, that the courts are of the Federation and as such funding of their capital projects should flow from the Consolidated Revenue Fund. The learned senior advocate further opined that since salaries and emoluments of the judges are being paid by the federal government, Section 81 of the Constitution should be invoked to place the responsibility of funding capital projects on the federal government. However, the Attorney General of the Federation, represented by Tijani Ghazali SAN, vehemently opposed the request of the state governments. The defendant counsel, who predicted his argument on the fact that while the issue of salaries and emoluments are expressly stated in the Constitution as the responsibility of the federal government, the section is silent on capital projects.
It constitutes an abuse of court process, res judicata, and issue escopel.
It is an innovation, it is a commendable one, and that we must begin to implement it such that judiciary will no longer be at the beck and call of a governor or of a president. I adopted certain interpretation of law which did not allow me to align with them.
The constitution is explicit. The federation is just to bear allowances and salaries, not capital expenditure.
After listening to the submission of the parties, Justice Atijo reserved judgment, which he said will be communicated to all parties.
And still from the judiciary, we hear that the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja has rejected an application by Senator representing Borno South, Ali Ndume, to withdraw as surety for the chairman of the defunct Pension Reform Task Force team, Abdulrashid Maina. This was during the resumption of the case of alleged fraud involving the defendant.
Ali Ndume told the court that he was withdrawing his surety because his assets would be forfeited to the federal government. Justice Okunabang declined jurisdiction over the issue since the matter was already before the Court of Appeal, but he ordered that the substantive matter of 2.9 billion naira alleged to have been fraudulently taken that was filed against Abdulrashid Maina should continue. The matter had been adjourned to October 7. Meanwhile, proceedings also continued on the alleged case of 29 billion naira fraud filed against the former governor of Adamawa State, Muritala Nyako. At the resumed hearing, Defense Counsel Kanu Agabi, SAN, called attention to an appeal challenging the trial court's decision that Nyako should enter his defense. The court granted an adjournment to Thursday for the parties to file more processes.
But what I just told the court is that there is no need to hear that kind of application because of what the Supreme Court has said about it, that the court should not entertain it.
The court was faced with a situation where it will consider the effects of health of counsel chosen by a party on the proceedings.
To election matters now, with just a month to the Anambra governorship election, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, is worried about the escalating security situation in the state. In order to ensure a secured environment for the exercise, the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security is reviewing its strategies.
The stated goal of many of the attackers is that the governorship election scheduled for the 6th of November 2021 must not hold. This is worrisome for the Commission. We are deeply concerned that specific electoral facilities and materials could once more become targets of attack. We will continue to work with the security agencies and in consultation with respected opinion leaders in Anambra State and the National Peace Committee to ensure that these hit-and-run attacks do not derail the electoral process. We wish to assure the people of Anambra State that the Commission is determined to proceed with the election as scheduled.
I wish to state that the Office of the National Security Advisor is working assiduously with relevant security and intelligence agencies toward arresting the foregoing ugly trend and other associated security challenges in the Southeast Zone and beyond.
Now, as activities marking Nigeria's 61st independence anniversary continue in different fora, the need to evaluate the nation's electoral processes as a measurement of its political evolution and maturity remains on the front burner. In exactly 1 month, Anambra will go to the polls to elect a new governor. INEC has introduced the bimodal voters accreditation system, BVAS, to further make the process run more efficiently. As the umpire developed proactively with time, at this time we wanted to link with the INEC National Commissioner for Information and Voter Education, Mr. Festus Okoye. We understand that they are in a technical session, and in the course of the program, if he is ready, we would link up with him to shed more light on the preparations for that election. Moving on now, the sweat of the founding fathers helped galvanize a nation to independence in 1960. 61 years later, questions on nationhood, transparency in governance, the sanctity of the ballot, and the legislative agenda for collective progress linger. Some of our respondents spoke to these issues as Nigeria clocked another year of togetherness.
Then there was a serious concern about Nigeria getting independence, and it was partly influenced by Nigeria's fears under colonialism getting independent across the world. Ghana and the other countries, if we come closer home. And the leadership then was actually selfless. Everybody knows things have changed. These people, most of them died without even, the houses of their own. Even if they have houses, they are either, they are mostly mud houses across the country. I was in Bielsa just recently. Even though Melford Kilo, we came as in the second republic, but that discipline, that selfless service was still there. You see, his home in Obia is it's nothing to write home about compared to the present situation, wealth that our leaders are accumulating. Balare Musa also is not there, even though they don't fought for the independence, but that discipline also permeated down to them. So till date, if you go to Sokoto, you cannot pinpoint a large edifice and say this is the house of Ahmad Bello. If you go to the west, you can't do same, say this is the house of Awolo. Even though they have houses, but they lived a moderate life. They lived a service, a life of service to the nation, service to their people, and that's why at that time, actually, they provided the foundation of a greater Nigeria. But unfortunately, things have changed. People have now become selfish. They are themselves first before any other person. And that's, I think, what led to the problem that we are in today.
We have continued to improve. We have continued to grow in the system. When we moved from issue of few political parties and regional parties to national parties of the like we have today, and moving forward to the level where we even had 90-something political parties. And these political parties participated in elections. And of course, by the rule, those that could not, over time, show capacity and strength based on the Electoral Act were also deregistered. That means there is a system in place that is working, and we should continue to work on it. We improve on it, and it will be better. So I will say yes, we have matured from consistent and consistent interruptions in those days to now growing the system for over 20 years now, and we are looking at a situation where we can now advance from where we are. Are there mistakes? Definitely. There are, and there will be mistakes because we are all human, and no system is perfect.
Under the 1999 Constitution, we have a tripartite structure of the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. It's often said that the legislature has suffered most since independence because the first thing the coupists do when they take over power is to suspend parliament. So in terms of growth and development, I think it is safe to say, and most experts believe, that the executive probably has developed much more. They are probably much more sophisticated because they've been there since 1960, since the white men left us to superintend our own affairs. But the legislature, you have seen all the interruptions, the interregnum, coups, suspension of constitution, and all that. So it's possible to say that in terms of development, the legislature still probably needs to do some catch-up.
Regional security and revenue generation status are some of the issues discussed during a meeting of South-South governors in Port Harcourt.
The meeting, which was held behind closed doors, had in attendance the governors of Edo, Delta, Akwa Ibom, Bayelsa, and the host Rivers. After an extensive deliberations, the chairman of the forum and governor of Delta State, Ifeanyi Okowa, read out the communique issued by the group. The forum approved the setting up of a regional security architecture, supports the decision for states to collect value-added tax, VAT, and resolved to join in the suit before the Supreme Court. The forum wants the National Assembly to review some aspects of the recently signed Petroleum Industry Act.
Council called upon the President and the federal government to uphold the law establishing the Niger Delta Development Commission by appropriately constituting its board. In addition, it expressed the hope that the federal government would make the forensic audit report public and deal justly and fairly with the report with a view to strengthening the capacity of NDDC to meet its obligations to the people of the region.
The National Zoning Committee of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, has concluded its sittings in Abuja. The zoning of the party's chairmanship position to the north, and then one of the decisions from the committee is also that all positions currently occupied by the south are to be swapped.
The National Zoning Committee of the People's Democratic Party, chaired by the governor of Enugu State, Ifeanyi Ugwanyi, was given the mandate to zone national offices to be contested by eligible and interested members of the PDP at the party's national convention scheduled for October 30 to 31, 2021 by the National Executive Committee. Governor Ugwanyi, however, disclosed that the mandate of the committee does not include zoning of the offices of the President, Vice President, and other executive and legislative offices of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and that the decision of the committee to zone the party offices does not in any way affect the executive and legislative offices in Nigeria.
The current offices being held by officers in the southern zone of the country, namely Southwest, Southeast, and South-South zone, should swap places with offices currently in the northern zone of Nigeria, namely Northwest, Northeast, and North Central zones.
Zoning of offices in PDP has traditionally been between the north and south of Nigeria, as the National Committee premised its decision in line with the constitution of the party on zoning and rotation of party and national offices in the interest of justice, equity, and fairness. The committee's recommendations are to be forwarded to the National Executive Committee of the PDP through the National Working Committee. The PDP Governors Forum earlier met in Abuja, where it adopted a similar position through voting.
A chieftain of the All Progressives Congress APC and a former chairman, House Committee on Internet Security, Aminu Jaji, says insurgency, banditry and all forms of criminality can be fought to a standstill through intergovernmental collaboration.
Recent strategy being developed by some states in tackling criminalities, particularly in the Northwest, that led to the arrest of some criminal gang leaders, stakeholders believe is a sign of hope in the war against insecurity in the nation. Sani Jaji says hope is not lost in the capacity of the nation's security agencies and the will of the federal government in keeping the country united.
So it is for the governors, all of them, to come together. If truly they want to fight this insecurity, they have to join hands with the governor, with the Zamfara governor in the first place. Let them come together to team up, to have the same measures. Even if maybe there are some measures that they didn't agree, or they see that it will not work, then they can harmonize it and redress it so that it should go on. While doing that, they have all the governors, they should make sure that they were in the same frequency with the other security agencies.
Reacting to the efforts of the Governor Malab Buni-led APC Caretaker Committee towards conducting a national convention, the former lawmaker urged party members, particularly in Zamfara State, to support the pre-convention activities and remain resolute in the progressive ideology of the party.
After 2023, there is Nigeria, there is politics again, there is 2027 beyond. So we have to think something that can work beyond 2023.
And finally on the program, the Nigeria Civil Society Situation Room and the European Union Support to Democratic Governance in Nigeria are urging the National Assembly Harmonization Committee on the Electoral Bill to eschew political considerations in favor of national interest in the discharge of their duties.
That is the way to go.
Civil society partners here gathered and many key stakeholders have identified about 17 points of divergence in the versions of the Electoral Act Amendment Bill passed by the Senate and the House of Representatives, among which are the use of smart card readers, the deployment of electronic voting, collation and transmission of results, the cost of campaigns, and the process of nomination of candidates, among others.
We expect that the Harmonization Committee will respect the version of Electoral Bill that allows the Independent Electoral Commission, INEC, to determine the mode of conduct for elections, including transmission of results.
The Situation Room, however, says that it is concerned with the identified differences in the proposals, particularly regarding electronic transmission of results and the deployment of technological devices in the conduct of elections. The Situation Room further emphasized that INEC over the years has shown by its practice and experience that it has adequate capacity to use technology in elections, including the transmission of results.
That's the size of political updates today. We were hoping to get the spokesperson of INEC on the preparedness for the election, but as a countdown to the Anambra gubernatorial election continues, we'll bring Mr. Festus Okoye in to give us the level of preparedness as well as aspirants for that podium in November 6th in Orca. Of course, NTA will be there live and direct to give you the details of how the election would unfold. And of course, I'll be doing previews as well. My name is Fisel Gufin, thanking you for being a part of the program today, urging you to play your politics for the greater good and keep on watching the Nigerian Television Authority, where we give you the very best of political news, reviews, previews, and interviews. Bye-bye now.